thank you everyone for joining us today on your Friday lunchtime. And I hope you get some benefits from the talk today all around the gut. As Christina has kindly introduced me, my name is Rachel Young. I am a nutrition and health coach, and my business name is Eat Food Right. I always like to start these talks off just by giving you a little bit of a background bio on myself and the business and why I've called it Eat Food Right. So for me, eating food isn't just about the what you eat, it's about the what, where, when, why, and how you eat. And all those are hugely important in relation to the what you eat. So they've all got a knock-on effect basically onto the what you eat. I'll talk a little bit around that today in relation to the gut and how mindful eating, for example, can really help to, calm down the body-brain connection in relation to that when you're eating, So if you're actually sitting and you're thinking about what you're eating and just that process of enjoying food and not 55 other things that you need to do after you've had your meal or doing 55 other things during your meal, that can really help in relation to gut-brain connection. So we'll talk around that today. Also just want to start off by saying at the start of the talk that this is a very broad overview of the gut and what it is and where it is and how we can best help ourselves to have a really good gut balance, okay? But again, everybody is individual. Everybody is different, okay? So your body and my body, we're all very different. Our tolerances, our intolerances, our allergies, etc., our specific lifestyles, wants, needs, all very different. This is a very broad overview on the gut and the gut health, okay? So as a nutrition and health coach, I work one-on-one with people in relation to that. So I would have a full view of if I was working with you and your gut, for example, as a one-on-one, I'd have a full view of your lifestyle, and your kind of consultation will involve looking at that holistically. So, are you a mother, a father? Are you working? Or, do you have intolerances, allergies, etc., etc.? What's your day-to-day lifestyle like? And that will all have a bearing on the plan that I would present to you, okay? So again, a big overview of the gut. Where is it and what is it and why is it so important, okay? Well, we all know that expression, we should, go with your gut, listen to your gut, okay? Why is that so important? Because research has now shown that really our gut is our first brain. So our gut, and whether it's in sync with us or not, can feed to what used to be called our first brain, good or bad messages, basically. So depending on how your gut health is, which is your large intestine, I'm going to talk to you a little bit around that now in a minute, the message that gut, your first brain, I'm going to refer to it as now, feeds up here to your second brain is hugely important. So for example, if you're eating a diet that is full of highly refined foods, that there could be 55 ingredients in each thing that you're eating, those things would not be particularly good for your gut health, okay? That's your first brain down here, which is going to speak to this brain up here, not necessarily in the best way possible. So we're going to talk around foods that really speak well to your gut and therefore makes this up here, the brain, a lot happier, okay? So your gut health. What can you do other than foods to make sure that it's in balance and healthy, okay? So there's a lot, right? Food is important. There's also other elements of our lifestyles that we can really utilize to their best potentials to have a really healthy and happy gut, okay? So your microbiome, that's the bacteria that you have in your gut, is dependent on these things, okay? It's dependent on genetics as well. I'm not going to get into the science of that today, but we certainly are in control at managing other things in our lifestyle other than our genetics to keep our gut health in balance and at its optimum level, okay? So we can control and manage the sleep and exercise that we do, our diet, our mental and emotional health as best we can. We can have management tools in place for that, stress management, okay? And our microbiome is hugely influenced, that's the bacteria that's in our gut, by what we eat, okay? So I'm going to talk around that as well today. Where is your gut? There's huge confusion, like, the gut and gut health, and, it's I suppose, really been trending over the last few years in relation to everyone's aware that, okay, oh, my immunity is in my gut. I've heard that, yes, okay. But when I actually ask people, when I'm working with clients one-on-one, you know, where is your gut? People are confused, okay? And that's okay. We all didn't study science in school or college or whatever. So there's a lot of confusion actually around our digestive tract in the human body. So your stomach, people will often say as well, I have a pain in my stomach. They actually mean gut, right? So your gut, your large intestine, your colon is the lowest thing down in your digestive tract, okay? So right up under your rib cage, that's your stomach. Underneath that then is your small intestine, and then down further again is your large intestine, okay? So if you look at this image here, in the middle is your small intestine, really, really long, all entwined together, and that's where a lot of your digestion happens. And your large intestine then, it's the illuminated pink, that's what your gut is, and it's also referred to as your colon and your large intestine, okay? And the main purpose of that basically is to flush out the food that we have digested from our system, okay? So we'll talk you through this in a second. So as I've said, it's our first brain. It speaks to our head brain. That's what I'm going to call our number two brain, but what was our number one brain, okay? That gut feeling. So when you have a feeling down in your lower gut, okay, you know, and it speaks up to here, if you can, sit with it, go with it, okay? Just mentioned as well, 80% of our immunity has been shown to be in our gut, okay? So I don't like the terminology we should be boosting our immune system, because boosting means that we basically do it once every now and again, and then we switch it off, switch it back on again. We should always be supporting it, okay? So a lot of the food choices I'm going to talk to you around today and the lifestyle measures will continuously support your immune system to keep it happy and healthy, okay? As I've said, it's also called your large intestine and your colon, okay? It's the final stage of digestion, which takes waste from the body, mainly bacteria. We are bacteria. We're protein and bacteria. There's more bacteria in us than there are cells, okay? So it's really important that we have a good combination of the healthy bacteria within our gut, okay? By the way, there's huge confusion. I'm going to talk around probiotics in a second, but there's often huge confusion amongst people as to what probiotics and prebiotics are, okay? Probiotics are the bacteria that we should have naturally within our gut, healthy probiotic bacteria, okay? We feed those probiotics with prebiotics. Prebiotics really are foods that we eat that are fibrous, okay? So fibrous foods are prebiotics that we eat to feed our good bacteria, probiotics. Now, often our probiotics in our gut can become out of sync. It's something that we refer to as dysbiosis, okay? So there's an imbalance in our gut bacteria. If that happens, it can happen due to things like antibiotics, and there might just be a bacterial overgrowth somewhere else in the body that can refer down then to the large intestine, and we need to balance that back out again. Okay, again, I'm not going to get into this too much today, but irritable bowel syndrome symptoms, for example, so you might be constipated, diarrhea, pains after you eat certain foods, etc., not digesting food properly, can all be symptoms that your gut is out of balance, okay? And if that is the case, you should be, you know, looking at rectifying that by speaking to a nutritionist or a nutrition and health coach to try and balance that back out again by potentially putting in probiotics. So a purpose-built, a man-made probiotic, and then feeding that again with good prebiotics. But you got to get that balance right before. So what I suppose really trying to say is you could be eating a lot of prebiotic, really good food for you, but there could be a dysbiosis there in your probiotics already in your system. So it's kind of like you're not really doing yourself any favors until you get that balance that's already there right, if that makes sense, okay? Okay, so how should we keep our gut healthy? First and foremost for me, eat food right is food, okay? So feed it well, okay? So what do I mean by that? Not too much. So I'm going to speak a little bit around intermittent fasting. Again, something that's trending over the last few years. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm intermittent fasting. I'm only eating for 6 hours of the day, etc., okay? It can be quite overwhelming when people come across this and they're like, oh, it means that I only eat for 6 hours of the day and I don't eat for 18 hours of the day. Okay, to me, intermittent fasting is literally just time restricted eating, which means taking a break from eating. It's going back to the traditional 3 meals a day, and that's all we need to eat as humans, okay? And we need to fuel ourselves properly to maintain our energy levels throughout the day, but we do not need to be overeating. We do not need to be snacking, you know, eating at an hour before we go to bed, unless there is a reason. Again, everybody is different. Potentially, if you're pregnant, a child, an athlete, yes, you may need to eat more than 3 meals a day. But overall, 3 meals a day is more than enough to maintain us all on an energy level throughout the day. Also, it's important just to mention in relation to variety. So your microbiota, this is your bacteria in your gut, it needs diversity to flourish. So I'm a huge advocate of, you know, flexibility, balance, eating, you know, a variety of foods, you know, like literally variety is the spice of life. Your gut bacteria loves variety, okay? If you are the type of person that will only ever eat, you know, 10 things from a potential shopping list of 500, that is not particularly good for your gut bacteria, okay? Loves a bit of variety. So I will take myself as an example. I don't tend to eat a lot of gluten or dairy just for personal reasons. However, if I'm in a situation where they are on the menu or available, I like both of those food group types and I will eat them. And that to me is challenging my digestion and challenging my gut bacteria in a good way. And also it's challenging my mental headspace in a way that I really want as well, you know, in that I don't think it's good for anyone unless they are allergic to something to think I can never eat this, you know. We should all be able to have a balance there. And if we want to eat a good, nutritious, healthy food every now and again, you know, we should do that. That's balance, okay? Water, a big one in relation to your gut bacteria and your large intestine. Okay, you could be eating the world of fiber, not the world of it, but a lot of fiber, and not drinking any water, okay? And you may still be constipated. This often happens to people. We need water to help our large intestine to flush out all of that bad bacteria. Most of what we pass out in our stools, by the way, is bacteria. Once again, we are bacteria, we're going to pass out bacteria. So we need water to help to flush out that from our systems, okay? Now, not too much either. Sometimes I'll have people saying to me, well, how much water should I be drinking? Again, dependent on you. How much do you sweat? Are you, exercising a lot? Are you thirsty, etc., etc.? Do you eat a lot of fruit and vegetables? So again, myself as an example, I eat a lot of fruit and vegetables. They are predominantly water. So I'm not overly concerned that I then am drinking 2 liters of water every day when I'm getting a lot of water from my food. If I drink a liter and a half daily, I am happy. I will drink probably a liter and a half every day. Sometimes people will say to me, oh, I could drink up to 4 liters of water a day. That is a lot of water, okay? If you're drinking that amount of water because you are thirsty, I would ask the question, why? Okay, maybe you should look at going to your doctor for some tests, etc. Okay, fiber is really important for our gut bacteria. So when I'm working with people one-on-one in relation to carbohydrates, I always say to them, think about the fiber in the carbohydrates that you are eating. So for example, if you were having a white sliced bread sandwich versus rye bread sandwich, okay? If you look at the color in those two things, white versus the brown rye, okay? In general, the darker the color of the food that we were eating, whether it be, let's say, kale versus a white potato, or the white bread versus the rye bread, the darker the color, the more fiber. So think about the fiber that is in your food before you think about, anything else really in the carbohydrate side of things, okay? Resistant starches, what are these? These basically are fibrous carbohydrate foods that when they are cooled, the starch within them, so they have fiber in them already, they also have starch in them. That's what makes them a carbohydrate. It's a type of sugar. And when they are cooled, that starch actually increases its fiber level, if that makes sense. So they've gone less sugary and now they're more fibrous. But the key here is that you don't reheat them. So they're resistant starches, okay, that are carbohydrates that are cooked and not reheated, and the fiber within those becomes more. Okay, so a fiber, what is a fiber? A fiber is something that our body does not digest. So when we eat fibrous food, it goes through the stomach, it goes to the small intestine, it gets to the large intestine, but we haven't digested it, okay? And by drinking that water, it helps to flush out all of that bacteria that's in our large intestine, if that makes sense, okay? The key with resistant starches, so I would often say to people is, if you've cooked, for example, some whole wheat pasta, some brown rice, and you have them for your dinner tonight, Friday, and you've leftovers, you put them in the fridge. If you have them cold on Saturday, that is a resistant starch, okay? So fibrous cold things, so your sweet potato, your whole wheat pasta, your brown rices, etc. Prebiotics, as I mentioned, these are the food for your probiotics, okay? So there's lots of them. Here's some examples: garlic, ginger, leeks, artichokes, fermented foods like your kimchi, your sauerkraut, etc. Always, again, back to everybody is different, so some of these things might not agree with people. So, for example, if you've ever heard of the FODMAP diet, it would probably tell you to steer clear of all of these things, okay? It is used potentially in people who have irritable bowel syndrome, and it can help, okay? Or other issues in relation to the large intestine. So again, always, you know, be mindful of you and your body. Again, what you should be eating. In an ideal world that I live in, something that has just one ingredient in it, okay? So it doesn't come in a packet, it's a whole food. So is that a sweet potato with a chicken fillet and lots of vegetables, etc., etc. If you look at the ingredients of a packet that you've bought and you do not recognize them and you can't pronounce them, does your body need to have them? That's the question that I would say to you, okay? Lots of immune supporting vitamins and minerals. So I'm not going to speak too much around these today, but A, C, D, and E are your vitamins, and your selenium and your zinc are your minerals. Okay, so where do you get your vitamins A from? You get your vitamins A from, that's beta carotene, so anything that's orangey color. C, think the rainbow of fruit and vegetables. D, think sardines, mushrooms, sunlight. Okay, E, almonds, pumpkin seeds. Selenium, Brazil nuts, chicken, turkey has it as well. And zinc, your red meat and your seafood. Okay, serotonin, I'm sure you might have heard of it. This is our feel-good neurotransmitter. Okay, and again, science has now proven that 90% of that is made in our gut. Okay, so our immunity is in our gut. It's our first brain. There's a lot going on with this gut, right? We need to really look after it. And 90% of serotonin is made here. Okay, so that's naturally made in our gut, depending on the foods that we eat and the mechanisms that we have within our gut to make that. Okay, and our lifestyle measures as well. I'm going to talk to you a little bit around how we can help to improve the serotonin. That's the feel-good happiness within us in our gut. So foods, so if you combine foods that are high in tryptophan with a carbohydrate. So what is tryptophan? Okay, it's an amino acid. So foods that are high in that are high protein foods. Okay, so you've got your like chicken, turkey, if you eat meat, beef, etc. And on the vegan, vegetarian side, your legumes, your eggs, etc. So combining a protein food with a carbohydrate will give you that natural boost or release of serotonin within your system, okay? So basically food combining, which means eating a protein, carbohydrate, and fat at every meal, essentially will give you a little bit of a serotonin boost, okay? So good mood food to me is eating whole foods, protein, carbs, and fats at every meal in the right proportion amounts, will increase that serotonin level. What does that do? Well, it's your good, feel-good neurotransmitter. If you are someone that is anxious, okay, it is going to help to reduce that anxiety within you, okay? So you can, I don't want to say control, but you can help to manage these things within yourself, okay? And it will give you more energy. You're feeling happier, you're feeling healthier, you're going to get more energy. Okay, so what is good for your gut? Again, this is kind of a lifestyle look. So we've talked a little bit around food. Relax, okay? Our gut does not like to be stressed. I'm going to talk to you a little bit around stress, our parasympathetic nervous system and our sympathetic nervous system in a minute, okay? Learn, if you find it hard to currently relax, learn tools that work for you in relation to relaxation. So is that reading? Is that going for a walk? Is it taking a bath? What are the things that you can do to help relax yourself? be mindful, and meditation. So I spoke a little bit around, the why, the how that we eat, sorry, and mindful eating. So I would also say to you in relation to just in general within your life, try as much as you can. I think, the COVID-19 and being in lockdown has taught us many lessons, and a lot of people have had time to self-reflect and maybe spend a little bit more time with themselves. And I hope in many situations people have learned that they need to be more mindful of themselves and what's good for them. Okay, so if you're doing one thing, do one thing. We can't, as much as us humans, we like to think that we are multitaskers. Really, when we're doing 5 things at once, we're not really paying full attention to any one of those things. So if you're doing one thing, do one thing and concentrate on that one thing. Okay. Meditation, something that I have tried to do. I do it, but my brain still is busy whilst I'm doing it. What does that say? I will still do it because it gives me a sense of, stopping and whatever, but I'm mindful that I don't necessarily need to have 0 thoughts in my head. And I'm not an expert in this field, but the experts in meditation will tell you, you should have thoughts in your head. They should be coming in and out. And so I like to kind of call that in my own practice more, it's mindfulness. I might go for a walk with no headphones in. That's being mindful, taking the sounds that are around me in as I walk, and just engaging in nature more. So not necessarily listening to a podcast or music, but engaging in the sounds of nature if you're lucky enough to be able to, escape to nature. I've talked around the foods. So these are some of the prebiotic foods that potentially are good for your gut. Some more examples are flax seeds, raw cacao powder, really good. Be mindful on that one. It's a stimulant. So I would always say to people, stimulants affect our ability to be able to sleep at night. Caffeine is another one, for example, alcohol. So I would just always have a bit of a caution on that one. Don't be eating it late into the evening. I would have a cutoff point myself as lunchtime. Apples, bananas, oats, they all have fiber in them, so really good for the gut as well. Oats have things called beta-glucans in them, which are really good for your gut and immune health. Fibrous foods, again, spoken around that. So the darker you go, the more fiber that's in the thing. You're going to find lots of fiber in your fruit and vegetables as well, particularly in the skin of your fruit. Unrefined whole foods. So what do I mean by unrefined? So if you take a tin of tomatoes as an example, okay, that is refined, or it's been processed, okay, in that they were tomatoes, they've been processed down, they're now in a tin, but they're only tomatoes that are in that tin. So I would call that like it's a processed food, but it's not, it is slightly refined, but it's not highly refined, okay? So if you look at that versus, a packet of biscuits, they are highly refined, okay? Things that are not so good for your gut, okay? Alcohol. So these are things that can help. If you remember back to one of the first slides, spoke about dysbiosis within the gut, okay? So that's an imbalance. So alcohol is one thing that can throw it off sync. Artificial sweeteners, so be mindful. So a lot of things on the label can say no added sugar, sugar-free, and then you turn around the back and there could be 15 artificial sweeteners within that product. So they are not good for your gut, okay? So be mindful and careful of that. Sugar, okay? For me, white sugar is the one thing that I would say to people, if you can avoid, please do. You should be able to avoid. It might take time for you to, wean yourself off of that, but you should definitely, there are no nutritional merits to white sugar, none. There are calories in it, which gives you energy, fair enough, but other than that, there is no nutrition in white sugar. Brown sugar, by the way, is just dyed white sugar, okay? So it's no more healthy for you than white sugar. Gluten is just known as an inflammatory food, okay? The proteins, the gliadin within gluten so if you look at a celiac, it's inflaming basically the large intestine. There's an allergy there as well going on, but just be mindful of gluten. If you are somewhat sensitive to it, it isn't particularly good for your gut, okay? Caffeine, why am I saying that? There's nothing wrong with having a cup of coffee or 2 a day. Again, be mindful of the time that you're having it, not past lunchtime, ideally. It can also, if you're an anxious type of person, it can also increase anxiety levels, okay? And that can have a knock-on effect then to symptoms that you might feel like on the irritable bowel spectrum of things. So be mindful of that for yourself. Highly refined foods, spoke around those. They're things that come in a packet that's labeled on the front that describes itself as being something amazing, and then you turn around the back and you look at the ingredients, there's 60 things in it. So really, we don't want to be eating those. Stress can absolutely affect your gut as well. Antibiotics and lack of sleep. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit around stress at the moment. Antibiotics, what can happen here is, okay, they are needed. You know, if someone has a bacterial infection going on, 100% they are needed. But they, in doing what they do to kill off that bacteria, also kill off some of your good probiotics within yourself. So in that instance, I would say to somebody, that is the time that is merited someone to basically add in a probiotic into their diet. Okay, lack of sleep throws us off in many ways, okay, in relation to our day-to-day abilities to be able to do things. And it absolutely affects our gut health, not getting enough sleep. So we need to be mindful that we are, okay. If you are looking to have some more information on sleep and stress, I'll be doing a talk with Iconic as well on the Friday the 28th of this month around that. So I'm not going to talk any more on sleep today, but I will be giving you some top tips about good sleep hygiene on the 28th. Okay. Lifestyle management. This is coming to the end of the slide now. What can you do in relation to helping your gut to feel happier and healthier with your lifestyle? Listen to your body. I always say to people, you know, people say, I don't think such and such agrees with me. If you're thinking that from up here, that's your gut telling you that. So listen to your body, go with it, okay? Avoid extremes. Another key one for me, you know, I've said about variety is the spice of life, having a balance, but extremes as well, our body doesn't like it. Our body doesn't like to be scared, you know. So all of a sudden you're having 8 cups of coffee a day normally, you eat a lot of sugar in your diet, and let's say today is Friday, and you wake up tomorrow morning and you go, you know what, I'm going to have no caffeine and no sugar for the next 3 weeks. That's a huge shock to your system. You should be weaning yourself off of those things, okay? Eat mindfully, big one for me. Sit down, take the time out, have your food in front of you, you know, in an environment that is stress-free as much as possible, okay? So somewhere that there's no major noise going on, there's not lots of people pulling and dragging from you if possible, etc. You've got to get your, so we've heard of the terminology rest and digest. We must be sitting and eating in a state of rest in order for us to be able to digest our food properly. Okay, again, back to, we can't do, you know, 6 different tasks at one time. Equally, our body cannot function on fully digesting our food unless we are in a state of relaxation and rest. Okay, sleep well. It's your superpower. It is. It's free. We have the same amount of no matter where we are in the world, no matter who we are, each and every one of us has the same access to sleep every night. So as I said, join me on the 28th if you want more tips around that. Stress less. What can you do to stress less? I say to people, think about the win analogy. What do I mean? What's important now? Okay. Try to stay in the now as much as possible. If you've heard of the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. So this is our parasympathetic is our relaxed state. Sympathetic is our stress state. We should be in our relaxed state 80% of the time and our stressed only 20% of the time. We do need that little bit of stress, okay? What has happened is that it's flipped in modern society and we are the other way around. We're 20% relaxed, 80% stressed, okay? Top tip for you to reduce that, and I do that in situations. So for example, before I was doing the talk, I would have done some deep breathing. It can really help. So if you just breathe in for 3 seconds, hold all through the nose, hold for 4 and out for 7, do that 3 times, that can reset your body basically into a relaxed state. Okay, so if you're going into a meeting, if you have a call, whatever, if you're just feeling stressed in general, 3 deep breaths, hold through the nose, in for 3, hold for 4, out for 7, 3 times will help to bring that down again. Okay, manage your anxiety. So know what your tools are in relation to lessening anxiety in your life. Okay, exercise, really good one as well to let off a bit of steam, get those feel good hormones going within you. So that can also help as well.